Welcome everybody back to the Puck Drops here. This is a new video. We're doing the revisiting Stanley Cup championship game co-winners, the ones that lost the final game but ended up going to and winning their entire conference. This one is on the 2009 Western Conference champion Detroit Red Wings, a team that looked like they were going to repeat for the first time since they did it in 97, 98, and they look really elite, but lost one game in the Cup final, that Game 7, lost that final Game 7, and were not able to repeat. This was their last Stanley Cup final appearance in franchise history to this point. You look at their roster, and they had rookie winger Justin Abdelkader, who became an alternate captain, but he was a guy that was a rookie, but a really great player for them. Danny Cleary, who played as well there. He came through in 2005. He was playing a great role. Pavel Datsyuk, of course, the Russian who just came into his prime. Aaron Downey was a good player there. Chris Draper, a veteran who had been there for a long time. Valtteri Filppula, who was a prime star on offense. Johan Franzen in the same line. Darren Helm, the second-year man from St. Andrews, Manitoba. Tomas Holmstrom, the Swede, late in his career, his third to last season in the National Hockey League. Marian Hossa, who had just departed from Pittsburgh to go to the Red Wings because he thought that they gave him a better chance to win the Stanley Cup after stints in Atlanta and Ottawa. Yuri Hudler, who was another great European winger. They like Tomas Kopecky, Violino, Leno, Kirk Maltby, another veteran winger that could really shoot the puck from any side of the ice. Darren McCarty, another veteran who had been with the Detroit Red Wings, the Burnaby, BC native, a real-time veteran who had won cups with them before. Mikhail Samuelsson, in his last year in Detroit, who would play there as well and was a great player from that side. And Henrik Zetterberg, big center. On defense, Chris Chelios, who was the big-time Chicago-born defenseman, one of the greatest American players. He was a Steadwall, older hockey player on defense. Jonathan Ericsson, of course, a Swede who had been in his prime at this point. Nick Kronwall, same thing. Brett Lubda, another great defenseman who could shoot the puck. Their captain, and Nicky Lidstrom, who had just become the first European captain to win the Stanley Cup the previous season. He was a steadfast leader on and off the ice on defense. Andres Lilia, Derek Meach, Brian Rafalski, the former Devil, had been doing a great job with Detroit in his second year as a Red Wing, and Brad Stewart. Goaltending, they had Ty Conklin, the former Oiler, who had lost with Pittsburgh and came over to the Red Wings. Jimmy Howard, the rookie from Syracuse, and their star in Chris Osgood, who had won the Stanley Cup twice before the last season and in 1998 with the Detroit Red Wings. So they had a loaded, stacked team. Now the standings wasn't as in previous past. They had the third best record, still an amazing year, but it wasn't the same thing for Detroit as it had been. They trailed behind the Boston Bruins and the San Jose Sharks in the standings, but with 51 wins and 21 losses and 10 overtime losses, they still had the team that could compete to win a Stanley Cup at that point. Now they would enter the Stanley Cup playoffs with the second overall seed in the Western Conference, just behind the Sharks, and they would play a team that had not gone to the playoffs in its history, in its 9-year history to that point, and those were the Columbus Blue Jackets. Game number 1 started in Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, and the Detroit Red Wings put up 34 shots on the goaltender, Steven Mason, for the Columbus Blue Jackets, and Columbus had 21 shots on Osgood. 10:48 into the second period, for there were no goals in the first period. The Red Wings scored their first goal of the playoff year, a goal by Yuri Hudler with assists from Valtteri Filppula and Mikael Samuelsson. RJ Umberger, 11:40 into the second, the former Flyer tied the game. The pass from Jake Voracek, tying it at 1. 14:21 in, Jonathan Ericsson gave the Red Wings the lead into the second period, and Nicky Kronwall, less than 51 seconds later, made it 3-1 on a power play goal for the Red Wings, the first power play tally of the game and of the series for either team. Johan Franzen scored his first goal of the playoffs, 2:54 into the third, to make it 4-1 Detroit. And that would wrap up game number 1. Game number 2 was very similar, and even more so by the Detroit Red Wings and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Detroit had a whopping 39 shots on goal on Mason, scoring 4 of them, and Columbus got a good amount of shots on Osgood, 25, but were not able to solve him at all in any manner whatsoever. 13:33 into the first, Brian Rafalski on another power play goal to give Detroit a 1-0 lead in Game 2. 7:18 into the second, Pavel Datsyuk scored his first goal of the playoffs with assists by Marian Hossa and Nicky Lidstrom, another power play goal, making it 2-1, 2-0 Red Wings. 15:30 into the second, his Euro twin and Henrik Zetterberg made it 3-0, and Yuri Hudler got his second goal of the playoffs. 3:38 into the third on a power play goal, the third of the game and fourth of the playoff year for the Detroit Red Wings, making it 4-0 Wings. That gave Detroit a 2-0 series lead after the Osgood shutout, heading down to Nationwide Arena in Columbus, Ohio, trying to get a 3-0 stranglehold. Columbus had a whopping 32 shots on goal on Osgood, but again was only able to solve him once. And once again, for the third straight game, the Red Wings put up 4 on Mason, with only 26 shots on goal. Tomas Holmstrom, 107 into the first period, made it 1-0 Red Wings. Then with 46 left in the first period, late, Danny Cleary made it 2-0 Red Wings. 13:55 into the second period, passes by Cleary and Johan Franzen, his fourth point of the playoffs. Henrik Zetterberg got his second goal, making it 3-0. RJ Umberger got his second goal of the playoffs and second goal of the series, 16:07 in, with less than 4 to play, to cut the lead to 3-1 on a power play. But with 31 seconds left, Zetterberg got his second goal of the game, an empty netter, making it 4-1 and getting 3 wins in 3 games, and back up to Nationwide with a chance to sweep the Jackets. And that the Red Wings would accomplish. With 41 whopping shots on Mason, Columbus had 32, and this was a shootout. It was a real death amount type game that was had. The Red Wings scored again first. Nicky Lidstrom, 2:58 in, making it 1-0. Then 6:12 in, and a power play goal, Christian Huselius tied the game for the Jackets. Then 7:09 in, Holmstrom made it 2-1 Red Wings. 10:02 in, Danny Cleary was able to score his second goal of the playoffs, making it 3-1 Red Wings. Marian Hossa, 6:59 in. Excuse me, that was the end of the first period. 1:44 into the second period, Rick Nash cut the lead in half. 5:38 in, on a power play, RJ Umberger tied the game for the Blue Jackets. And then 6:59 in, a little more than a minute and a half later, Marian Hossa made it 4-3 Red Wings. 11:26 in, Hossa got his second goal as a Red Wing in the playoffs, making it 5-3. And then Chris Russell, 15:45 in, made it 5-4. And then with 1:56 left in the second period, Frederick Modin, the former Avalanche player that the Red Wings were very familiar with, tied the game at 5. And then late in that third period, with 47 seconds left to go, Johan Franzen scored his second goal of the playoffs, a power play goal, making it 6-5, and was the game winner that clinched the series and swept the Blue Jackets, and it set Detroit up for a second-round meeting. They expected to play the San Jose Sharks with the Clash of the Titans, one of the great teams, but San Jose lost in 6 to a team that they had played 2 years ago in the conference final, the Anaheim Ducks. And that was who they played. And Anaheim was an 8 seed, but they knew not to push over. And they would learn that with those very same Anaheim Ducks. Game 1 in the second round, back at the Joe, where they had clinched because of the San Jose loss, home ice advantage against every team in the Western Conference playoffs so far. 7:28 into the first period, Corey Perrier passes from Ryan Getzlaf and Chris Pronger, finally coming into his prime, made it 1-0 in favor of the Ducks. 12:33 in, Johan Franzen tied the game on a power play. That was the end of the first period for that. And 37 shots on goal on the Red Wings on Jonas Hiller, and 24 shots by the Ducks on Chris Osgood. Nicky Lidstrom, 14:24 into the second, made it 2-1 in favor of the Red Wings on the power play. Teemu Selanne, with 17 seconds remaining in the second period on a power play, tied the game. And then with 50 seconds left, coming across the side off the circle as the puck was moving, a rolling puck played by Danny Cleary, Nick Lidstrom ripped it high side under the bar over Jonas Hiller, which ended up being the game winner and gave the Red Wings a 1-0 series lead. Game 2 started in the Joe, and the Red Wings were very comfortable and confident about this, but this was one of those games that went to triple overtime. The Red Wings, in a losing effort, pummeled 62 shots on Jonas Hiller, and Anaheim had 46 shots in a victorious effort on Chris Osgood. Brad Stewart for the Red Wings, 6 in, made it 1-0 on a power play goal. Then Getzlaf, 8:16 into the first, tied the game at 1. Chris Pronger, 8:15 to the first, gave the Ducks a 2-1 lead on a power play. Then Mikael Samuelsson, 13:54 into that very first period, tied the game for the Red Wings. 4:42 into the second period, Ryan Carter, with passes from Scott Niedermayer and Ryan Getzlaf, got a power play goal, making it 3-2 Ducks. 5:19 into the third, Franzen tied the game, his fourth goal of the playoff year. And then it would immediately go through overtime, double overtime, and then triple overtime, 1:15 in, as the Red Wings defensive line was logged across. Wisniewski played a puck that got deflected off a Red Wing stick and went right to a diving Todd Marchand, who scored his first goal of the playoffs and tied the series at 1 apiece. So the series would shift to the Honda Center for game number 3. In a regulation loss, the Red Wings pummeled and popped 46 shots on Jonas Hiller. The Anaheim Ducks had a measly 23 shots on Osgood, but they were able to get the most of them while scoring 2 goals, and Detroit only had 1 of their 46 past Hiller. He was incredible. 12:49 into the first, Teemu Selanne made it 1-0 Ducks. 8:16 into the second to make it 2-0, what eventually became the game-winning goal. Scott Niedermayer on a power play made it 2-0. 14:20 into the second, Henrik Zetterberg cut the lead in half on a power play or passes by Mikael Samuelsson and Jari Hudler, but it would not be enough, and Anaheim would take a 2-1 series lead. Back to the Honda Center, Detroit wanted to tie the series before it went back to the Joe, and they had the amount of shots they wanted on Hiller, and they were finally able to solve him in a big way with 40 shots on goal, 6 of them going in, and 28 shots on goal the Ducks had, and they got 3 past Osgood, but the momentum was clearly with Detroit. 42 seconds into the first period, Corey Perry made it 1-0 Ducks. 11:49 into the first, Detroit, it was Johan Franzen. It was passes by Filppula and Eriksson, and then with 36 seconds left in the first period, Johan Franzen got his 6th goal of the playoffs, making it 2-1. 11:03 into the second, Corey Perry tied it for the Ducks, and then it was the Marian Hossa show. 16:02 in by another pass from Franzen, made it 3-2 in favor of the Red Wings, and with 56 seconds left in the second period, Hossa got another power play goal to make it 4-2 Red Wings. Then the third period would resume with a 4-2 Red Wings lead. 2:46 into the third, Mikael Samuelsson would make it 5-2. Niedermayer would score the last Duck goal of the game, 10:03 in, to cut the lead in 2 on a power play. But that was all she wrote for Anaheim. 17:27 in, Henrik Zetterberg would make it 6-3, his 5th goal, and that would end the Ducks' hope of a 3-1 series lead and tie it at 2, best of 3 going back to the Joe. And the Red Wings would go there to hold home court serve, and serve they did. The Ducks got 1 goal past Chris Osgood, only shooting 17 shots on him as the Detroit defense, headed by Eriksson and Lebda and Lidstrom, were able to do their job. Only 17 shots on him. They had 38 shots on Jonas Hiller. And the Red Wings were able to capitalize there. Now, goals in the first period are the first times that happened in a Red Wing playoff game this year since Game 1 against the Columbus Blue Jackets. 3:23 into the second, Detroit made it 1-0 by another goal by Johan Franzen, his 7th. Yuri Hudler, 4:02 into the second, made it 2-0 Red Wings. Ryan Whitney, 15:37 in, cut the lead in half, 2-1 on a power play, the only Duck goal of the game. Darren Helm, 16:52 into the third, made it 3-1 Red Wings. And with 52 seconds left, Zetterberg made it 4-1 on an empty netter, and Detroit headed back west to the Honda Center with a chance to clinch the series. That would not happen with a hard-fighting, vigorous Ducks team. And got 28 shots on Chris Osgood, scoring 2 of them, and the Red Wings had 39 shots on Hiller, but Hiller was insane again, only letting 1 pass. No goals in the first period. In the second, 2:21 in, it was Getzlaf on a power play by a pass by Corey Perry and Scott Niedermayer. And Corey Perry, 17:35 into the second, he scored by Getzlaf and Ryan to make it 2-0, and the Perry goal ended up being the game winner. Because with 2:35 left, Johan Franzen cut the lead in half in a power play, but it would not be enough. 2-1 the final score for the Ducks, and it would go back to Joe Louis Arena and once again be another 1-goal game, the 4th of this 7-game series. And Anaheim would get 27 shots on Osgood, but it would not be enough. Detroit would have 40 on Hiller, and that's what they needed. As the first period started, and it was Hudler again. For the third game in the playoffs, Hudler scored first, 15:43 in to make it 1-0 Detroit on a power play. 1:17 into the second, Darren Helm made it 2-0 Red Wings. Teemu Selanne, 14:50 into the second, cut the lead in 2-1. Mikael Samuelsson, 6:23 into the second, from passes by Pavel Datsyuk and Valtteri Filppula, made it 3-1 Red Wings. 17:12 into the second, Perry, passes from Teemu Selanne and Chris Pronger, cut the lead in half again, making it a power play goal, making it 3-2. Bobby Ryan, his 5th goal of the playoffs, the second-year man, 7:37 into the third, tied the game for the Ducks. And then with only 3 minutes remaining in the third period, Daniel Cleary got the Joe Louis crowd in an uproar from the sideboards, sinking a shot by a great pass by Zetterberg, and then from the point by Lidstrom, making it 4-3 Red Wings, and that will be the game winner, which would take the Red Wings to the conference final for the second straight year. And there they would face, thinking either Calgary or Vancouver, a team that bested both of those squads, a team who hadn't made the playoffs since 2001, and the Chicago Blackhawks, the Cinderella story they were, with their young stars of Taves and Kane. But the Red Wings felt their experience would be enough, and it would be a quick series. And to the Joe they went, and their experience would be enough in Game 1. Chicago, with their speed and their skill, had 32 shots on Chris Osgood, and Detroit would get 43 shots on the goaltender Nikolai Khabibulin. And the Red Wings would score first in the first period. Adam Burish, the former Capital 525 in, his third goal of the playoffs, made it 1-0 for the Blackhawks. They would score first against the Red Wings, but it wouldn't be enough. 8:23 in, Daniel Cleary would tie it for the Red Wings. Johan Franzen, 6:38 in, would make it 2-1 Detroit. Chris Versteeg, 3:12 into the third, tied the game. Tied the game for the Red Wings on a power for the Blackhawks. Excuse me, I got the teams mixed up. On a power play, Mikael Samuelsson, 7:31 into the third, made it 3-2 Red Wings, the eventual game winner. Daniel Cleary, 8:58 in the third, would make it 4-2 Red Wings, and for the third time in the playoffs, Henrik Zetterberg would get an empty net goal with 43 seconds left to make it 5-2 Red Wings and take game number 1. Detroit would gear up for game number 2 in the Joe, up 1-0 in the games. In a game that went to overtime, Detroit had 38 shots on the goaltender Khabibulin. Chicago had 39 on Osgood. Chicago got to Osgood 2 times, and Detroit in the overtime period would eventually win it, and the total would be 3 goals past Nikolai Khabibulin. And the Blackhawks for the second straight game would strike first, 12:49 in. Taves on a power play would make it 1-0 in favor of the Blackhawks. Then Brian Rafalski, 6:43 in, would tie it on a power play for the Red Wings. 14:06 into the second, at a 1-1 game, Daniel Cleary made it 2-1 Detroit. 12:20 into the third, Taves tied the game, the 6th goal of the playoffs for the Blackhawks, and then it would go to overtime where a 3-on-1 Hudler played it across. Filppula was waiting for the goaltender Khabibulin to dip, and when seeing so, played to the late man Samuelsson, who ripped it a feathering shot right glove side and over the glove of Nikolai Khabibulin, ending it, and Detroit would win. They would go then to United Center, up 2-0 against a rival in a conference final that had not been played out since 1995. And then the rivalry was starting to get big, and Chicago was really ready for it. At least the fans and players were both. And Detroit, again, surpassed the Blackhawks for the second time in 3 nights on the shots on goal, scoring 30 shots on goal on Carter Hewitt because Khabibulin was benched by the coach, Joel Quenneville. 8:45 into the first, Sharp would score for the Blackhawks. For the third straight game, the Blackhawks would score first on a power play goal. Andrew Ladd, 9:50 in, 1:05 later, making it 2-0 Red Wings. Blackhawks, 45 seconds into the second period, Semi Paulson made it 3-0 Blackhawks. And then 14:38 into the second period, Lidstrom cut the lead in 2 for a power play goal to make it 3-1. Daniel Cleary, 17:10 in, made it 3-2, and with 59 seconds left in the second period, Eriksson found a way to tie it. They had come back from 3-0 down to tie the game at 3, trying to get the stranglehold of the series, 3-0, but it would not be, as there would be no goals in the third period. It would go to overtime, and Byfuglien laid one across the wall. Sammy Paulson able to push to a diving Patrick Sharp on his knee, who scored the overtime game winner and put the Blackhawks back in the series. 2-1 the series was there. And for the first time since game one, there would be a multi-lead game at the end of the final. And Detroit had 33 shots on Huey, and Blackhawks would get 28 shots on the goaltender, Osgood. 8:41 into the first, Marian Hossa would make it 1-0 Red Wings on a shorthanded goal. With 21 seconds left in that first period, Johan Franzen make it 2-0 Detroit. In the second period, 1:13 in, Valtteri Filppula made it 3-0 Red Wings. 3:53 into the second, the Blackhawks would finally score, and it was Taves again, making it 3-1. Marian Hossa, 4:05 into the second period, would make it 4-1 Red Wings. 7:42 into the second, Zetterberg would make it 5-1 on a power play. And with 12:47 into the third, his second goal of the game as well, Zetterberg would get a power play to make it 6-1. And the Red Wings would head back to the Joe with a chance to end the Blackhawks season, their memorable season. Detroit, in a game that went to overtime again, the third overtime game of the series, had 46 shots in a victorious effort on Huey. Chicago had 31 shots on the goaltender Osgood. There were no goals in the first or second in this game, but 6:08 in, Daniel Cleary made it 1-0 Red Wings. And for the first time since the Vancouver series, Patrick Kane would get on the board for the Blackhawks, but passes from Seabrook and Dave Bolland. 12:53 in, tying the game at 1. In a 1-1 game, it would head to overtime. And 3:58 in, the Red Wings showed why they were the deeper team. As the puck was embraced off the line because of a great save by Huey on the one end, Brett Lebda kept the puck alive and was able to find a screen shot with bouncing bodies, no deflection. It went off the side of the leg of Huey, and a loose rebound which lightly crossed apart. No Blackhawk or Red Wing was able to clearly see it, including Huey, except for the young St. Andrews, Manitoba native and Darren Helm, and he pulled the puck right through the leg side of Huey, making it 2-1 Red Wings, the overtime winner and the series winner, and winning the conference for the second straight year for Detroit. And there, Detroit would face a team who had gone through adversity, being down 2-0 in the series against Washington, going through Philadelphia and Carolina, and they would play the same team they did the very previous year in the Cup final in a victorious effort in the Pittsburgh Penguins. And in Game 1 in Joe Louis Arena, the Red Wings knew they had to win Game 1 against a team that was really fighting to get that cup back for the first time since 1992. Detroit had 30 shots on Marc-Andre Fleury, and Pittsburgh had 32 shots on Osgood. 13:38 in, Brad Stewart scored first for the Red Wings, making it 1-0. Ruslav Fedotenko, 18:37 into the first, much later, tied the game for the Penguins. 19:02 into the second period, with only 58 seconds in the second, Johan Franzen made it 2-1 Red Wings, the eventual game winner. And 2:46 into the third, by a pass by Ville Leino, Justin Abdelkader would spice it all up. The rookie's first goal in the Stanley Cup playoffs in the Cup final in Game 1, making it 3-1. Game 2 would be a similar story in Detroit. Pittsburgh would hold a heavy edge on shots on goal, but only score once on Osgood. He was insane. The Red Wings would get 26 shots on the goaltender Fleury. 16:50 into the first, Yevgeny Malkin made it 1-0 Penguins. 4:21 into the second period, while it was 1-0 Pittsburgh, Jonathan Ericsson would cut the lead in half. Well, actually, would tie the game, Valtteri Filppula, 10:29 into the second, the eventual game-winning goal made it 2-1 Red Wings. And 2:47 in the third, just as what had happened in Game 1, almost a mirror image. Justin Abdelkader from passes by Tomas Holmstrom and Marian Hossa made it 3-1 Red Wings and a 2-0 series lead, heading back to Mellon. Pittsburgh would hold serve on their home rink getting 21 shots on Osgood, but being precise with them, scoring 4 goals out of those 21 shots. The Red Wings peppered Fleury with 29 shots, but only scored 2 of them. For the second straight game, the Penguins scored first. It was Max Talbot, 4:48 in to make it 1-0 Penguins. 6:19 into the first, Zetterberg tied it by passes from Ville Leno and Johan Franzen, making it 1-1. Johan Franzen passes from Zetterberg and Kronwall. The Swedish connection was there 11:33 in, making it 2-1 Red Wings, threatening to take the 3-0 series lead on the power play. Then Letang, 15:57 into the first, tied the game at 2. Nothing in the second period, but in the third, Sergei Gonchar, with passes from Malkin and Crosby, 10:29 in, on a power play, gave the Penguins a 1-goal lead. With 57 seconds left in the third period, Max Talbot made it 4-2 Pittsburgh, and that would end Game 3. Getting into Game 4, almost an exact replica of Game 3. The shots on goal were different, however. Pittsburgh had 31 shots on Osgood, scoring 4, just as they did with 10 shots lower the previous game. In this matchup, the Red Wings had 39 shots on Fleury, but only scoring 2 of them as well. And again, Yevgeny Malkin, as it happened in Game 2, would score first, 2:39 in, making a power play goal and making it 1-0 Penguins. Darren Helm, 18:19 in, tied the game. Then Brad Stewart, 46 seconds into the second, made it 2-1 Red Wings. 8:35 into the second, and at the end of the hockey game, all Penguins. Jordan Staal tied the game on a shorthanded goal. The game winner eventually, 10:34 into that second frame, by Sidney Crosby, his 15th goal of the playoffs, with a great pass by Yevgeny Malkin, made it 3-2 in favor of the Penguins. And Tyler Kennedy, 14:12 into the second, made it 4-2 Penguins, and the Red Wings or Penguins couldn't get anything past either goaltender on the third, and Pittsburgh tied the series, making a best of 3, going back to Michigan. And for the second time all playoffs, Osgood would shine through with a wonderful shutout. 22 shots by the Penguins on Osgood, and he stopped them all. 29 shots by the Red Wings, and the puck was juiced that night, for 6 of them went in. 13:32 in the first, it started with Danny Cleary from passes by Pavel Datsyuk and Brian Rafalski. 1:44 into the second, Valtteri Filppula made it 2-0 Wings. 6:11 into the second, it was 3-0 by a great shot by Kronwall on a power play. Brian Rafalski, 8:26 into the second, made it 4-0 Wings. Henrik Zetterberg, 15:40 into the second, made it 5-0 Wings on that play, and there would be nothing in the third period. And with a 5-0 win, the Red Wings would get ready for game number 6 in Mellon, with a chance to win the Stanley Cup, and the Cup would be in the building in Game 6 in Mellon Arena, just as it had been the previous season. But the Penguins overtook the Red Wings in the hockey game and on the shots on goal. 31 shots on goal, and Osgood scoring 2 of them. Detroit had a measly 26 on Fleury, and for a team this deep and this good, they were not able to score but only 1 goal. No goals in the first. Jordan Staal would score first 51 seconds into the second to make it 1-0 Pittsburgh by passes by Kennedy and Rob Scuderi. Kennedy, 5:35 into the third, while the Penguins were already up 1-0, ended up getting the game winner, 2-0 for the Penguins. 8:01 into the third, Draper cut the lead in half, but that would be all she wrote, and it would be a decisive Game 7, and once again, for the third time all series, it would be a one goal game. And Detroit, in a game that was very low scoring and low shots on goal / possession, had 1 goal past Fleury, 18 shots by the Penguins, the lowest all series for them, got the second lowest all series, for them, got 2 pucks past Osgood, both by the same player, Maxime Talbot, and it would end up winning them the Stanley Cup. 1:13 into the second, after a scoreless first, Max Talbot made it 1-0 Penguins. 10:07 into the second, Talbot made it 2-0 Penguins. and by a play that was guarded off a deep screen with a great pass by Lidstrom, 13:53, and Eriksson cut the lead in half, 2-1. But by a similar play after the last minute, while the puck was being jarred in the last second, and a steered skate by Fleury off of Franzen, then Lidstrom fired one into his paraphernalia, saving the puck and winning the Penguins a Stanley Cup. Now, we can't forget this Detroit team that was not supposed to do as good as it did, that almost got the upset if it wasn't for some bad clearance plays in Game 7. A lot of people blame the fatigue in the second round against the Anaheim Ducks. That may be. They probably would have done better even on the road against the San Jose Sharks, although we know the next 2 years they don't do very well against them. But all these teams needed that playoff experience, and it's wonderful to kind of see what had been done and what has been done with these franchises. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video, of course. The Detroit Red Wings, like, sub, watch everything. The next one will be on the 2010 Philadelphia Flyers. So I hope you guys enjoy that. Have a good night, and happy hockey.